Welcome back to the Mackem in the Middle podcast, another league game for Sunderland, and it is a defeat, 2-1 away to Rotherham, and obviously, as always, we'll get into what happened during the game. Some of the changes that were made, we'll have a brief look ahead to the next game, which is, of course, Saturday's game, away to Coventry, a nice early kick-off on that one. But starting with this game, John, I said to Michael, I think I said to everyone really at the start of the season, before we'd even signed a player, before we'd kicked a ball, that there's 4 games that I think Sunderland should be expected to win this season. And that is Wigan at home, Wigan away, Rotherham at home, and Rotherham away. And I said that was at the start of the season. Things have changed. We were up to, I think, 5th yesterday. And the teams that we're expected to beat now is far more significant than just Rotherham and Wigan. But to lose that game is one of the worst results of the season. We'll get on to the first half, but the first half performance was definitely the worst half of the season for Sunderland.
Yeah, it's I think it's quite a tricky one. We'd all look at it and see how we played Rotherham at home, and you think, well, we should go there, play our football. They're scrapping for their lives, and they're not gonna get anywhere near us in theory. I know that sounds a little bit cocky, but that's normally the consensus. And it just wasn't like that. I could even point to the first one. I think it was 1 minute 20 seconds on there, and Luke O'Nien makes. I think they're only small, but sort of 3 mistakes, and you're thinking, hang on a minute, we don't look like we're starting very well here. I think you've maybe got to mark down Rotherham away, judging on previous experiences. That it's the new Tranmere away. It's just a horrible place that we just don't seem to do very well there. And for all Rotherham were, let's say that's probably one they'd probably say that's their best performance of the season at their place. We didn't help in any way, shape, or form. We were dreadful. Yet we still, probably had enough chances to even win the game. So it's very much a weird one. I almost want to put it down and say, it's just a shit night all round. We'll put it to bed. But I think it is important to dissect it and see why, who, what, and why, why it went wrong and those types of things. And we know Mowbray's taking a bit of the blame, but I don't think he can. He obviously takes some of the blame, but I don't think he takes it all. There's no excuse for not winning second balls and those types of things. So it's just it's almost typical Sunderland, where you think, yeah, we're going somewhere now, and there's talk of we're in the playoffs, and if we stay in the next 3-4 games, and we can really have a go. And it's a little bit like, nah, just get knocked back down a peg or two, and that's just a typical Sunderland thing, which I think sometimes we take for granted, if you see what I mean.
Yeah, and obviously I think that drops us down to 8th, which, considering I think a win would have left us in 4th, shows how tight it is. And just to demonstrate how tight it still is, if we win on Saturday, if the results go our way, we can still go 4th. So, there's still 13, 14 games left of the season. There's still plenty of points to play for, and it's probably one of these seasons where it's going to go down to the last 2, maybe the last game of the season, to decide who will finish top 6. But obviously a few changes in the team for this game. Roberts was dropped. Rested. Hume, obviously he gave away the penalty in the Bristol City game. He was rested. O'Nien came in, and Elise was rested as well. Dennis Serkin came in, and it's easy to understand why you need to rest players, because with how many games we've played in the last kind of 2 weeks, it's Saturday, Tuesday for the last kind of 3 weeks, I think it is, and I'm not sure if we have a game this Tuesday or not. But you can see why we need to rest players, but at the same time, when you drop the likes of Hume, you drop the likes of Roberts, that's when you see how important they actually are to the team.
Yeah, it's especially Patrick Roberts. I think he's, barring Stewart, he's probably put himself down as, the best player at the club, sort of on a consistent level, especially sort of, attacking wise. As soon as he came on, it did change the game. And then you've got to look at Mowbray and say, look, why? Because to me, will go off the first 45, but Ahmad was dreadful. And I'm not talking about, trying stuff and it not even coming off. His his man just stepping in front of him, and normally he's so sharp, on those types of things, and you cannot get near him. But it wasn't once; it was sort of 3, 4, 5, 6 times, and he was back defending eventually. But it was sort of like it was your mistake that led to that, and we know at the moment, those little mistakes are being punished. The Personally, I think anybody in the team could have been changed. Obviously, we want to keep the centre backs, nice and solid. I didn't think, even though we needed to probably change Trey Hume, I don't think 09 covered himself in glory, barring, a very, very good, assist for Gelhardt. We've been, or maybe personally, I've been calling for Sirkin to come back in, and it's not just him, but I thought he was dreadful last night, absolutely dreadful. And it's what do you do if you change it and that happens, and you've sort of you've got to live by it. Personally, I think Dan Neil didn't need to play 90 minutes, at all, but for some reason, he did. We probably needed. Michu looked okay in there because obviously he had the midweek break last week, and then this week you would have thought maybe it's Dan Neil's turn. We've got a big game Saturday, and you'd expect Dan Neil to play another 90 minutes, and maybe it's just telling. I love the bloke. Absolutely a massive fan. But yesterday for sort of 40 minutes, I didn't even know he was playing, and that's, to me, that's in the team that we have and the way we play. That's not good enough in any way, and you can put that down to how good Rotherham were, how crap we were, but obviously he's not in the game. So if he's not in the game, there's something wrong, I think. So yeah, the changes are a little bit, like I said, it could have been anybody. But like we said earlier, Mowbray probably will take some of the stick, but the players coming in have really got to take their opportunity, because there are, even though we say threadbare, there's still a lot of players in the squad. There should be players chomping at the bit to come in, and do a job. And for some reason the whole team yesterday, especially when it started, just looked rattled. Even Patterson's kicking, I think he shanked one out under no pressure whatsoever, and you're thinking, what has happened? From this cool set of kids who are fearless and play without fear, and we've been scared by sort of, no disrespect, but sort of crappy old Rotherham. That's, like I say, no disrespect to them, but I thought they were excellent. But we shouldn't be going to teams like that and almost, I wouldn't even say it was rolling over. I really can't put my finger on it, what happened. But yeah, going back to your original point, the changes, I think it could have been anyone. I think a few of the wrong people were rested, and maybe the wrong people maybe came in, but that's ultimately Mowbray's decision, and he has took it on the chin and said it's it will shoulder some of the blame.
Yeah, and obviously we went 2-0 down in the game, the first of which was in the first half, and while you can look at the strike and say you could probably hit that 10 times, and 9 times out of 10 the keeper saves it, goes wide, hits the post, whatever. There's one time it has went in the bottom corner, and credit for the finish, but the defending from Sunderland was just non-existent. You've got 2 midfielders, Dan Neil and Michu. You've got your entire back four with Iron, Danny Barr, and just not one of them went towards the ball to close it down. I think you ran 15-20 yards, had time to look up, decide where you wanted to hit the ball, and I think it went through Bart's legs in the end, but there's just no one going towards it whatsoever.
Yeah, again, it's from their side, they'll look at it and say it's a cracking finish, and maybe we could learn a thing or two off of that finish, whereas we don't shoot from outside the box for some reason. Just does not happen. We shift it side to side, whereas you get a team, and I think you saw it a few times yesterday, anywhere near the box, they'll just have a pop, and maybe we could learn from that. But yeah, I don't think if you're playing sort of two holding midfielders in Michu and Dan Neil, and you've got a centre back pairing of Bart and Bath, that you shouldn't be getting a shot as easily away as he did. Like I said, it goes through Bart's legs, but I don't think he's not really anywhere near it, and there's no one even around him, which is again a massive frustration, and it just added to the calamity that we saw throughout what we'd call a terrible 70 minutes.
Yeah, and obviously I think it came out on Twitter before the game that Sunderland still haven't scored a goal in the first half from open play this year. And obviously that remained the same. It was 1-0 at half time. We came out second half and looked a bit better. We started moving the ball a little bit quicker, a little bit more progressive. But once again, Rotherham scored again, a very similar goal outside the box. No one really closing down, and it came from a Daniel error. Lugo Nyon's high up the pitch. Obviously, they play it down that side because there's no one there to cover it. And again, it was just one of these goals that you concede because people aren't in position. People are reluctant to go to the ball. They want to back off and kind of get back into shape. But while that will work sometimes, if you back off too much, people will shoot from outside the box and will score from outside the box.
Yeah, I think you've hit the nail on the head. I think first things first. I think you've maybe got to criticise Tony Mowbray for not reacting at half time. I think 45 minutes is plenty of time to get yourself in the game, and if you're not, we didn't really have any really good spells, I don't think, in the first half. And it definitely needed. We've got 5 subs now. It's not like we're restricted to 3. You can go in there, and even a double change or that. Some of these players have got to learn that you can be brought off at half time if you're not putting. I'm saying not putting the shift in, but if it's just not happening, which obviously we know it weren't. You have to be reactionary to that. We look at, the 3 subs came on. I know it was just after the second goal. Obviously, we did get reaction. Now, why not do that at halftime and get that reaction straight away? You then equalise, and then I think then there is probably only really one team who's going to go on and win it. So again, it's another criticism to Mowbray for not making the change. He doesn't seem to want to make halftime change, barring if it's a really bad injury. But yeah, obviously the second goal, Daniel, maybe again. I know the Bristol City penalty comes from a Daniel sort of losing the ball and getting it stuck under his feet. And again, you've got to adapt to the conditions. It was wet. I saw a lot of people slipping over. Just get at your feet quicker. Even one touch, just pass. A lot of the time we were good at that. Getting it back to Patterson in tight corners, and he obviously gets caught out of caught in possession. Again, he's been we're probably quite a lot saying it now that he does get caught in possession at times. And he needs to have a bit more awareness, and maybe some fatigue in there as well. I'm loath to blame Luke O'Neill because I think we do play with sort of a high right back when we do have the ball and we get it out wide and we play on the break quickly. And obviously once that space is there, there was only really one outcome. To be fair, again, it's a very good finish into the bottom corner. And it was a little bit of a, even though they probably deserved it, it was still a little bit of a sucker punch.
Yeah. And there is one positive to take out of the game, which came about 15 minutes after Rotherham scored their second. Then it was that Joe Gelhardt got his first goal since joining the club, and he's had a slow start. He hasn't really hit the ground running, I don't think. And given the situation, the fact he hasn't actually played too much football prior to coming here, he's thrown into a team. He played, I think, 3 or 4 days after signing, and was expected to kind of match everyone else on the pitch that's with him and play the way we play, which is hard for any new player coming in. But he did get his first goal after what I think is his 5th game, and it's the type of goal you want to see from him because he's in the right place at the right time. Obviously, he had one about 5 minutes before that was ruled out for offside, and it was offside. But to get in between 2 defenders, get the ball in the box, there has been a couple of times so far that he has been in that position and not scored. But to get that one will hopefully give him a lot of confidence going forward.
Yeah, you'd hope so. I think that's probably one of the only real positives to come out of last night. Even though on the whole it was still a bit of a frustrating night. Obviously his offside goal, he doesn't need to be offside. I don't think he's he should be intelligent enough to look across the line. And then I think is there another one that comes off his shoulder that he sort of heads straight at the goalkeeper, and you're thinking just anywhere else, But yeah, to get his first goal, will hopefully give him. That is like the monkey off the back, isn't it? If Will Grigg had scored, against Blackpool straight away, maybe it'd have been different. You never know. But yeah, for him to get his first goal, like I said, will give him confidence. It's a fantastic ball from Luke O'Nien, and to be fair,
Yeah.
it's literally straight on Geldart's head. And we'll take it. I still think we struggle to get him into games. I don't know, because we don't have too many high players and sort of high up the field, barring sort of Clark and Roberts out wide. If Geldart does come deep, sometimes a criticism of Ross Stewart, there is then no one there. We're either, if he's going to drop in, someone needs to replace him. Pritchard then needs to be that focal point, in play. Or we need to say to him, look, you need to stay high. The boys are back here who can do that job. You need to stay high, being around that box. And if we can find him with, the play that we have got, I think a few balls went across the box and he wasn't quite in the position. I think, if we can tell him and get him to stay in there, then I don't see any reason why he can't, sort of find the net on a regular basis.
Yeah, and obviously, well, yesterday, after the game, I was kind of thinking what the narrative of this podcast would be, and it would be the fact that Sunderland got robbed of a goal in the last few minutes, which we'll get onto. But having watched a replay of something that happened earlier in the game, I don't think we can complain too much about it. But we'll talk about that goal now, because it was given as a foul. The ball goes into the box. Luke O'Nien jumps, I would say. Keeper comes out, jumps into O'Nien. Keeper goes down. The keeper actually gets back up, makes a save, realises the ball's gone behind him, goes down, holds his head. At least he puts the ball in the back of the net and gets given as a foul on the keeper, which, to put it straight, never a foul, is it?
This is one of those real tough ones, I think. Obviously, for me, I think they're both going for the ball. And if you're both going for the ball, I think I'm sure they both missed the ball.
But neither they get anywhere near it.
Yeah, so if they've both gone for the ball and they collide, it's not studs up. He hasn't, the goalkeeper hasn't punched him like Sirkin a few weeks ago. It is a coming together that as you see it. So to me personally, I don't think it is a free kick with what goes on the rest of the pitch in that grand scheme of things. But on the flip side, goalkeepers are well protected, whether you agree with that or not. I certainly don't, at times. But for me, and with the referee, I can see why he's given it. And like I said, I don't agree, but I can see, I can see why it is given. You never know whether, Luke O'Nien's card is marked, because we know he's a master of the dark arts, and on corners, I've seen him, blocking people, fouling people. I think even in the first half, I think it was just off shot, I think, but I think he elbowed, but sort of brushed
that's the other thing I was
face.
going to go on about, because when I've seen it back and you look at it, that is a penalty for Rotherham, really.
Yeah, that's what I mean, and those little things will be sort of, they'll come past. The Rotherham players will mention it, and they'll say, "Look, just watch him." They'll say to the ref, "Just watch him," and it's in the ref's mind. Those types of things. I think a perfect example, I think, was in the first half, and I think one of our players, I think it might be Ballard, who absolutely went through one of the Rotherham players. The referee played on, not advantage, but didn't give the foul. And then there was one that wasn't a foul, but he gave it. So you can obviously tell he knows he's fucked up the first one, so he's given the second one. It's those types of things you've unfortunately, got to live with. But yeah, the penalty one, I can see, I can see both sides. Personally, they both go for the ball. They don't get anywhere near the ball. It's a coming together. For me personally. So it is a goal, but obviously I can see why the ref has given it. And it's one of those, frustrating ones that you just have to suck it up. And it sounds a strange one, but even though we created those chances, I still don't think our whole performance warranted, maybe getting the point. It's like when we played Bristol, and obviously they probably did deserve a point, but it was just frustrating. Obviously, the way they got it. If they don't get a penalty, we win 1-0. We're sort of happy as Larry, and they're frustrated. But yeah, it's just I personally, I don't think we did deserve it. But you in those games, you take it if it does come. And it's a shame that, other chances. I think there was one with Elise. He's playing as the makeshift striker and a better touch, and he scores. I think Ballard missed what we'd call a sitter, really, because it was a free header. He's very good in the air. You go to rue those chances.
Yeah. And whether people think we deserved a point or the win or whatever, we didn't get it. Finished 2-1 Rotherham. And I say that does drop us down to 8th, but that sounds worse than it actually is because, as I say, a win on Saturday, results going away, you can potentially find yourself back up in 4th. It is so tight at the moment. But before we look at that game on Saturday, if you had to pick the standout player, who would it be? I imagine it's going to be a substitute.
Yeah, I think it's got to be Patrick Roberts. He's, as soon as they come on, even the Rotherham, I had the Rotherham commentary on, and even they were saying, like, you've got to shut Roberts down. And obviously, he did prove that, to be fair. I think he's even outshining, Ahmad. Yeah. And Ahmad seemed to be the player to sort of sulk because Roberts wasn't playing. If he's not playing, it's a bit like, well, if my mate's not playing, I'm not really bothered. It was a strange one. But yeah, Roberts was, we'll probably go as far as saying, fantastic. In fairness, he sort of carried us up the pitch, a lot of the time. Wasn't really any, real movement, and we only really looked like doing something when he came on the pitch, and ultimately he's just made himself, undroppable, and we need to, manage his minutes now. So if we are, it's easy to say, if we are 2 or 3-0 up on Saturday, which I highly doubt we will be, after 70 minutes, he's the player you do bring off and you do protect, and so we can use him going forward, because I think after, even in the Coventry game, it's going to be a very, very tough game. I know that there's tougher tests after that, which we're going to need him, because the game's going to be fine margins.
Yeah, and obviously if Coventry win that game, I think they go a point behind us with the game in hand on us. So out of the games that we've had recently, I'd say this one is probably one of the most important ones. But like I say, that's 12:30 kickoff, and that is going to be a lovely 3.5 hour drive, 7 o'clock in the morning for me, that one, which hopefully ends up being worth it in the end. But if you had to go with a prediction for that one, and I will remind you that it's been 38 years since we've won at Coventry. 1985 was the last time we won there.
Yeah, I'm probably not going to go against that. I'll probably say a 1-1. I think we do owe them a little bit after the first game of the season, where I thought we played really, really well for the majority, and they had sort of a little spell and pegged us back a little bit. So yeah, ultimately it's the same with Rick. I'll take a win anywhere it comes. But I think there's probably going to be a draw. But like I said, I'll take a win at any cost.
Yeah. But I say that is on Saturday. We'll have a podcast out hopefully on the Sunday or the Monday to talk all about that one. There's no midweek game next week, so a little bit of a rest for players, which is needed, I think, based off that performance against Rotherham. But like I say, something will be out to talk about that Coventry game in due course. But until then, we will see you later.
That's all, folks.